Hello and welcome to the sixth demo of StepForward, the application development platform. In this video, we will continue exploring the reporting feature of StepForward. Here we will focus on the report procedure, a flowchart that collects data to be reported and passes it to the print template. Reports are made of the flowchart similar to processes that we have already seen. The only difference between them is in the selection of components available for building the flowcharts. While processes have components that can make changes to the database table by adding, removing, or changing records, reports cannot alter the database, but they have tools for feeding the data into print templates and producing the report pages. Our report will take one parameter, name of the issuer whose preferred shares we have in our portfolio, and produce its market snapshot in the first go-round to be enhanced later with some graphics. The report will also need the current date to be used in retrieving market data and calculation of yield. We also need to set up some variables to hold basic setup parameters, like the broker commission rate and par value of preferred shares. Although there is no hard and fast rule that governs the face value of stocks, all Canadian preferred shares that our portfolio is made of have the value of $25, and the commission rate in our case is 1%. For the time being, we will just plug these values into our reports. Later on, we will make our design more flexible and adaptable to change. Next, we need to do the retrieval from the stock table to get the stock data for the issuer of our interest. In our selection criteria, we will limit the return data to records of the given issuer. And sort them by the ticker symbol alphabetically. Now that we have the preferred stock record, we need to determine its value at the redemption call. From the previous videos, you could remember that this may or may not be the original par value of the stock. Depending on when the redemption call is made during a certain period after the announced redemption date, which is part of the stock prospectus, some stocks can be redeemed with a premium, and we need to figure out if the given stock is eligible for premium, and if yes, for how much. This is where our redemption value function comes handy. At this point, we have our ticker symbol for the stock and we can pull out the latest market data. The reason we are configuring this retrieval as a single row return is that we want the report to bring back data even on date when there was no trading of a particular stock, for example on the weekend. If we simply look for the trading data on a particular date, we may not get anything back. This way we will get either the today's data or the most recent market data for the stock, which is why we sort the output from the retrieval component by date in descending order. If there is no market data at all for the given stock, then we have nothing to report and we simply proceed to the next stock. Make some price adjustments for the broker's commission to show our real price of the stock. Now we have all we need to calculate the yield value on redemption for each of the three market prices, high, low and closing. And we will use of course our user-defined function redemption yield. calculation of yields without redemption call is much simpler and can be done as simple math. And now we finally came to the point where we can use the print template. We have all data that needs to be reported, and the objective is to connect this data with the template. You probably noticed how the palette selects the Print Templates tab. You can preview the print template before selecting it from the palette. Once the print template name is selected and plugged into the print component, the inspector shows two columns with variables. Those defined in the print template as dynamic, that is to be populated with data at the runtime, and placeholders for the matching variables in the flowchart that carry the data sought by the print template. We connect them by dragging flowchart variables from the repository in the palette into the respective slots in the print template inspector. This is where the two worlds meet, or I could say this is where the rubber meets the road. Now we can test our report. Here is the print template in action. We see the template header having created the top of the report page, and the template body putting in the data for the first stock in the banks category. We can keep walking through the flowchart step by step, but let me show you another testing feature that makes the process faster. We can place a break on a component in the flowchart and let the process run until it reaches the breakpoint. Now we can step right into the print component and see the effects on the report. Before going any further, let us save the flowchart. Now that we have our first version of the report, let us look at the ways to improve it. There are a number of deficiencies in our design, the most obvious one being the way the report is launched. You should have seen it at the testing stage, but it is more clear in the runtime submission dialog. The report requires input of the company name, and it has to be typed in. And the spelling and capitalization of the company name must be exact, or the search in our stock table will not find any matches. What's more, the user must know upfront what companies are monitored as stock issuers. In other words, we need to bring up the list of issuers in the issuer table to know what is available. It would be much easier to select issuer companies from the pull-down list instead. StepForward provides a feature that allows creation of named lists that can be used for this purpose. Here we can create a list of company names, give it a name, and then attach it to the report parameter. Now we have the company names stored in the list that we can pick from rather than typing the name by hand. However, this still does not address our problem in its entirety. What if we add a new company issuing preferred shares to our monitoring or want to buy them for our portfolio? This value list will have to be edited every time to stay in sync with the issuer table. There must be a better way to keep things consistent, and StepForward does provide such a way. We will now go back to the user-defined functions editor that we used when we created the redemption value and redemption yield functions. This function reads the list of issuers from issuer table, sorting it alphabetically, and copies it into the array component. This is a new flowchart component that you haven't seen before. This component serves as an accumulator, being a sort of the virtual table which can have multiple columns and rows. Virtual because it exists in memory and only while the flowchart runs. In StepForward framework, a user function that returns the array can be used as a provider of list of strings that can be used like value lists, except their content is not defined statically through the value list editor, but it is formed from other sources like the database table. With tool like this, we can go back to the value list editor. You can see that the name of our function has been picked by the editor and included in the list of item providers. We had to turn this manually crafted checkbox off to make the editor show the available providers. The company parameter is now populated by our function that takes the content of the issuer table. Let us see now how it picks the changes in the issuer list. Let us add the new company, call it Element Fleet Financial. Let us now explore one more feature of the report. When preferred shares are bought at a premium, that is, at a price higher than the face value, there always exists a chance for a capital loss if the issuer calls the stock for redemption, which happens at the face value. This is not to say that such stocks should never be bought, as there are other factors that may offset the risk. However, if the preferred shares are bought at a discount, this risk is eliminated. It would be nice to make these shares stand out to spot them more easily. So we're going to color code the discounted shares. First, we will compare the stock market price with the face value. And now we will use the flowchart component that we haven't used before, setColor. This component takes the name of the flowchart variable. The inspector lets us pick the colors that the variable should be assigned by the print template if and when it is used as the source of data by the template. We pick the color. Once assigned, the color remains with the variable in all subsequent uses, so we need to reset it back to the standard black color after the template prints its content. And we can now see the effect of this color coding. And finally, we can run the report in full, observing the improvement that we've added. This wraps up this 6th demo of StepForward. You can learn more about the functionality and capabilities of StepForward or download StepForward from this page. And read on preferred shares design on our website. Thank you.